We are going again now. Got it. And it's telling me we're recording now. We're live. Good morning, Bob Tassone.
Good morning, John.
Hello there. Well, it's nice to see you again. I know it's been a few weeks since we've had a chance to chat and do our little insurance conversation here on Facebook. And glad to have you on again with me today because we're here to share important information, help people make smart choices, and avoid costly mistakes when it comes to protecting their assets.
That's right.
And
That's why
what
we're
better
here.
way to make sure you're protecting your assets than to make sure you got proper insurance coverages, right? Well, so that's what you are here to help people do. And here in the real estate world, you know, there's all kinds of every day is different. And just like every house is different, everybody's needs are different, every situation is different. And today I think you got some really cool, interesting conversational advice to share with folks about things things to say, how to say it, what you maybe shouldn't say when it comes to talking about just going into the situations that might happen. So let me turn it over to you and let you kind of have some conversation a little bit with some folks about uh, how to handle your insurance claims and so forth.
All right. Well, good morning. First, I want to start out by saying that I'm not giving any legal advice here. We're never doing that. We're licensed to do insurance in my case, real estate in your case. And so we can give advice regarding insurance or real estate, but not legal advice. So this is just
Right.
advice based on our experience. And in my case, more than 30 years experience as an insurance agent. In your case, 20 plus years probably as a real estate agent. I don't know.
You're going back to 2004 or so, so yeah, we're getting close to 20
Almost
years
20
of
years. Yeah.
yeah, getting
That's a
close to
lot of
20 years.
experience between the two of us. But when the time comes that you have a claim, whether it's on your home insurance or your car insurance, if you have a tree land on your house or you have some kind of a water leak or something where you're making a claim on your home insurance or you have a fender bender or something and you're tempted to make a claim on your car insurance. Well, if you make that claim, you're probably going to talk to an insurance adjuster. And the first thing you got to remember about the insurance adjuster is that it's his job to try and minimize the claim, to pay out as little as possible, because he works for the insurance company. And I'm not saying that these are bad people, but I'm just saying that that's their job, is to keep to put a lid on it if he can. And so they will talk to you and they will ask you questions. And the main thing about when somebody asks you a question, you should answer the question, but don't say any more than what they ask you. In
Okay.
other words, this is not a time to go into a lot of extraneous details if that's not part of the question, because they can ask the question again and look for conflicts in your account
Hmm.
and what you're saying. And sometimes they can use that against you, and that's not a good situation. So try to get
Well,
whatever your story is having to do with this claim, get it straight in your mind and stick to it, and don't go off on a tangent. Don't don't say any more than what they ask you, but answer them truthfully. That always. I
okay.
mean, I say to people all the time, I'm not real good at making things up. And so I just tell the truth and that's it. That's how I answer a
It-
question. Sometimes
uh,
sometimes people can't handle the truth, but that's the way I do it.
what, yeah, what I'm hearing you say is try not to elaborate beyond the scope of whatever the incident is, perhaps, because it does sound like maybe an adjuster might be a little bit of an interrogator.
Oh
I
yeah, they're
mean,
asking you questions and they're taking notes. And
yeah.
sometimes they'll ask you, "Can I record your statement?" And so you give consent to having your statement recorded. And that's the time when you really need to have your act together, because that's the official thing that you're saying.
So what kind of scenarios would somebody any kind of claim that's being filed? you
Yeah,
would
any
have this
kind of claim
conversation
that's
with
being
the
filed.
adjuster
If,
potentially.
if you're in a parking lot and you have a fender bender, you know, you're saying, well, the person was backing up and they backed into the side of my car, or whatever it is. And the other thing to remember is anytime that you have a claim situation, use the camera on your phone.
Hmm.
Take pictures. Take
Yeah,
pictures
that's
of
something
everything.
we
Use
we
the
have
camera
these
on your
tools.
phone.
Yeah, we have these
And
tools
and
today.
and
We
you
can
can
use
use
that.
the tape recorder on your phone.
Did you just say tape recorder?
Yeah, well, I don't know what it looks like a tape recorder on my phone.
Oh, you mean the audio?
Yeah, the recording feature.
Just- some people might not know what a tape recorder is, Bob.
Well, this is what it, this is what it looks like on
Yes,
my
in
phone.
fact, it does. That's right. Yeah, it looks like a cassette tape. So those millennials that are out there that might actually
I'm
work,
sorry.
they might not know what a
But
cassette tape.
anyway, you
I
can
remember ACAP.
record things. And so if you're so let's go over to if you're in a car accident. First of all, the thing to remember is that the police officer is going to ask you questions. Once again, answer the questions, but sometimes they will ask you a question and then they'll go away and then they'll come back and ask you again, or they'll go over and talk to the other person involved. And they're trying to see if things are matching, if things are consistent. And they're
Right.
trying to see if your statement is consistent. And so when you're in a car accident, you're all flustered and nervous.
Yeah, it's a
You
stressful
might be
situation.
injured. I mean, there's lots of things that can happen. It's not the best time to be answering questions sometimes, but you're in the situation where they're asking you questions. And so if you can get a hold of yourself and try to answer the question and try to be consistent about how you answer the question,
So
because
automotive,
that
uh,
is the record of what happened.
yeah, right? So the police officer is going to be there. Automotive accidents and incidents um, often involve a traffic infraction of some kind. But let's say something happened, like where you're involved in somebody backed into you in a parking lot. That's not necessarily a traffic infraction. Somebody wasn't speeding or disobeying the law necessarily. We just had a fender bender. So in those conditions, under what circumstances would you advise that somebody involves the police?
I think I think if in doubt, call the police. If you have damage to
Yeah,
your car, and the way it is right now, any damage is a lot of damage. Because
like
if
commercial.
if they scrape your bumper, they can't just patch up or paint your bumper. Nowadays, they replace the whole bumper. And so it could look like a little scratch on your new car, but it's a big damage if they have to fix that to make it like new. And so if in doubt, call the police. The other thing that happens is if you're involved in something, nowadays there's cameras everywhere.
This is true.
So if you're in the parking lot at Target or Walmart or wherever, something happened, probably on a camera. You need to find out if this circumstance, this event was recorded by a camera,
You
because
know, it's a very
that's
good
your
point.
evidence.
Um, Perspective changes everything, and we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as it is to us. And whenever there's an occurrence or an event, there are multiple sides to whatever that event was. What may seem this way to one person seems another way to another person. Um, and so having a video and as much documentation and evidence as you can get certainly makes a big difference when you're really trying to get into these things. We're affected by our stress that we're under when it happens, the adrenaline that may kick in. Um, and it's a great advice that you're offering here to make sure that you try to keep it as simple as possible. And certainly emotions can be high in those environments and situations when something like that is happening. And really,
You're just
the,
trying, yeah, you're
the
just
good,
trying, you're giving your side of the story. And so if you can, if there are other people at the scene, the first thing you need to do is you need to record somehow who was at the scene. So if
Hmm.
if I was in an accident with you, I would say, well, John, can I have your driver's license? I want to take a picture of it. And you can take a picture of mine.
Cooperation is certainly
Yeah. And if there's someone else
aspect of
that is there, say, hey, I just want to have a record of everybody that's here. Can I take a picture of your driver's license? That's indisputable, because when you take a picture with your cell phone, it shows exactly where the picture was taken, exactly when the picture was taken, and you can take a picture of the person as well. In other words, not only their driver's license, but take a picture of them, because that proves that they were there
make sure that things line up.
at
Yeah,
that day, at that time.
this is good advice, because these are things that seem pretty natural. These seem pretty logical, right? To be able to consider these things, but when you're in the middle of that event, you may not think of that. So it
Oh
is
yeah,
important. That's why I'm glad we're having this conversation.
got to have
So
the presence of mind. And then, so
exactly.
so the other thing is, okay, so somebody hit you in the back end of your car, and you did this, and you think, well, I think I'm all right. You know, that that injury can show up tomorrow or the next day.
Usually it's a couple days afterwards.
It could. And so if you have any doubt at all, you should go to the emergency room.
Fair point.
You should go. And I tell you what, if you have any doubt at all whether you should take an ambulance to the emergency room, you probably should. Because see, what happens is, if an ambulance comes to the scene, then the documentation of you and your injury begins at the scene. The crew on
so
the ambulance are documenting exactly what your condition is at that time. They're documenting your condition while you go to the hospital. And when you get there, it's documented. Versus if you say, well, I'm okay, I'll probably go to the emergency room, but I'm going to drive myself because I'm really a stubborn person.
yeah, I agree. Documentation is important in those kind of things. And we're not talking about frivolous lawsuit kind of activities here. We're talking about making sure you're taking care of yourself here,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because it is, there are injuries that can happen. Fender bender. I mean, somebody bumping into you in the parking lot's not justifiable reason to call an ambulance. I don't think we're talking about that
No,
here.
no, if it's
Um,
something low speed, 5 miles an hour or something. But on the other hand, somebody could whack you in the back end, and you feel like, well, I mean,
yeah,
I think I'm okay, but
I was rear-ended in Newport News a few years ago, and spun my car around actually on Jefferson Avenue,
oh yeah,
and it was really bizarre way the police officers handled the situation, but they didn't even interview me. They didn't even talk to me, and I considered myself a victim of this whole thing. But they didn't even, at the end of the day, later on, because I just thought it was pretty obvious that I was rear-ended, right? And this is why I think it's so important to make sure that you document what you've got, make sure that you're doing and following through and making these proper phone calls. And I didn't take video of it. I took some pictures, I think, of the scene, took some pictures of the car and whatnot, but I didn't even encounter with the other guy. Like, I was just so frustrated and upset that this had happened, and I thought it just seemed so obvious. He ended up not getting charged with anything, and the entire case was dismissed. It was very bizarre, but uh, because it just seemed like it was that obvious. It's never that obvious when somebody's coming in to the scene after the fact, and the fact that they had interviewed him without interviewing me until later, at least, and I didn't really get a chance to say. Apparently I didn't get a chance to say what actually happened. I thought I did, but
well, I think sometimes you have to insert yourself, and you have to go over to that policeman and say, hey, I need to tell you about this. I mean, you need to.
yeah, I was a sort of a foreign environment. It was kind of one of those things just didn't expect it to happen, and those so that's what usually happens in these accidents. An accident, by definition, is something that's unexpected, unanticipated, ends up creating stress and confusion, and you don't always know all these parties that are coming into place.
The other
And
thing is, if you pull this out and you show this to somebody and you say to them, I'm going to record this, okay?
you're
People will
protecting yourself.
behave a lot better
You're protecting yourself,
when they're on here.
and I don't want to get into.
Anytime they're on here, they're going to behave better. And if
The
they're
conversation
not
will be
behaving
different.
better, you've got it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Good advice. Good advice all around. I'm sure we could get into some really interesting conversations about this. I'm reminded of that trauma of the time I was rear-ended a couple years ago. But and that actually involved. He actually tried to make a claim against my insurance. That's another thing. He tried to make a claim against my insurance to have his vehicle repaired by my insurance company. My insurance company, because there was no charges, it was dismissed and everything else, assumed that they should pay it. I had to call them and say, no, absolutely not. You are not to pay this claim. It was a really, it was, I don't know how that all settled out, but it was a very, very weird scenario. So don't always
Well, I
trust
mean,
that it's obvious.
when this happens, you need to take a picture of the police officer, take a picture of his badge.
That's it. I didn't do that.
Because if you've got to call somebody the next day, you want to say, well, Officer Smith was at the scene, badge 719.
You
That's
reminded
who's
me,
there.
you reminded me again of how the whole charges, now that it's coming back. The officers lost my uh, information. They lost when it was presented to court all of my claim. Like,
Yeah.
my conversation was completely gone. They had no record of it.
Memories can be stimulated by these pictures and these recordings. Let me tell you, because sometimes people have selective memory loss.
Interesting, right?
I mean, I deal with memory loss all the time. Somebody comes in to talk to me, and I call it speeding ticket amnesia,
Selective memories.
where they can't remember the speeding ticket that they got in August,
Mm, that's pretty
but
fresh.
then I go into the system and I find it, and they say, "Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I did have a speeding ticket in August."
I just think,
Speeding ticket amnesia. It's a terrible problem in our country.
well, there's a lot of more of aggressive drive. It was interesting. I was talking to a truck driver friend of mine the other day, and we were having a conversation about traffic and aggressive driving. And I have never seen the kind of aggressive driving on a day-to-day basis, particularly on the interstate here in the greater Williamsburg area. And I-64 has always been bad for it, but it's gotten worse and worse. And this truck
Yeah.
driver is really frustrated with it. And one of the worst areas in the state for it is here in Eastern Virginia on the peninsula. It is bad. I mean, it's bad up in Northern Virginia, but that's
Yep.
just heavy traffic volume.
People are in too much of a hurry.
It is, but here in for some reason in the Hampton Roads Peninsula area, and we're up here on around the Williamsburg area, we got the 2-lane section that opens up. Once you get into 3 lanes, it's usually not quite as stressful, but in this 2-lane section of road here between Williamsburg and Richmond,
Yeah.
there are some really aggressively dangerous driving things that are going on, and I've seen people going off
Oh
into
yeah.
the
The
breakdown lane
breakdown lane or
try
whatever.
to
Yeah, they
pass.
do crazy stuff.
And police officers are even talking about how speeds now are higher than they've ever seen, with speeders going 130, 140 miles an hour. And
They get into that breakdown lane and they kick up rocks, and that's how you get a star on your windshield
hey, you
too.
got a cracked windshield and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
Mm.
don't need to get into too much of that because it's another whole conversation. But
I'll give you
you
one
got to
more
protect
tip.
yourself.
One more tip before we finish. Okay. So while you got your phone out, take out your wallet. Take out all the cards in your wallet, all the credit cards, your driver's license. Take a picture of everything in your wallet, front and back. Because if you lose your wallet, the credit card company needs to know. And the number to call is on the back of the credit card that you lost. The numbers that you need to tell them are on the front of the credit card that you lost.
Right.
So if you take a picture of everything in your wallet, you'll have the information you need if you ever lose your wallet.
Keep
And if
that
you have a
record.
picture of your driver's license and you lose your driver's license, at least you got something to show the officer if you ever get pulled over. You say, well, I lost it, but here's a good picture of it.
Good advice. Good advice. Lots of great conversation points here today, Bob. I mean, we're getting into some complications of life as we talk about some of these scenarios. There are difficult things that happen. That's why we need insurance. That's why it's important to protect yourself, protect your assets, and having that proper piece of, that state of mind where you can prepare. It's hard to be prepared when something like this happens, but this conversation hopefully gives some people some insights into what things they can do to help protect themselves and make sure that they're treated fairly during a situation, whatever it is, and making sure that they get the best result from their insurance carrier. And that's what we're here for. Make sure people can make smart decisions and avoid costly mistakes and get the best result. We want to make sure that you have the best result with whatever situation you are facing, whether it's in real estate or with insurance and so forth. With that, Bob, we'll look forward to a future conversation. We got the holidays are coming up. I mean, we're right in the middle of the holidays here. So Christmas is just, oh my gosh, less than 2 weeks away now. So things get a little busy and things get a little haywire. So it probably will be a week or two before we get back on here, but glad to have you anytime and like these conversations. So thanks for your time today.
All right, John, it's always a pleasure. Take good care.
All right. You too, man. Thank you so much.